Uh-oh. It's one of my favorite subjects in the world. You know who I'm going to be talking about. Boy, what are you doing over there? Boy, yeah, you're acting crazy. Boy, why are you saying this? What do you mean? When I hear that voice, it warms my heart because it's my pops, right? And pops had three different parts to him. First, he was dad, right? Dad was strong. Dad was from came from Ophir, Utah, little tiny mining town. He he had to scrap for everything. He grew up Mexican in a white area, which wasn't that great. He was just at times, he even said this, he was an angry kid. At times he took his anger out at times. And as a dad, he was very much a disciplinarian. He put me and my brother against the MGBGT. It was a 67. It was his little pride and joy. And he put us in front of the car and he took a football and he stepped back about maybe 10 yards. And at this time, my brother is, I think, maybe 10 or 12, maybe 12. So he's 12. So my dad is maybe 31 years old. He steps back about 10 yards and just grabs his football and fires it at my brother and says, if this ball hits that car, I'm going to whoop your tail. And my brother learned how to catch at that time, like catch the ball wherever it was, and learned concentration. That's what dad was. Then there was Pops, and Pops was this wise sage that talked to everybody, loved everybody. If you experienced him, you know exactly what I'm saying. And then there was Kempa, and Kempa was only experienced by 7 people. And that was the Ada, Paloma, Sophia, Riley, Cameron, and Maddox and McKenna. Those were his grandkids, and Kempa was just this guy that would take you to the 99-cent store, and he would buy you a gift, or he would do whatever, and he would think about why you were feeling the way that you were feeling and all these things. And I went through all these stages, and I got to see them all, and it was amazing because it was one person. But the thing that I saw throughout my life was the fact that he continued to repeat things that a lot of times I didn't value at the particular time. And here's some of them, and I have to read them, so stay with me here. Boy, what do we fail at the most and work at the least? And then he would end up and answer his own question, communication. Breathe, drink water, pray. Boy, there's only one business in the world, the people business. People don't care about what you know until they know that you care. Don't step on the field to compete, son. If that is the case, then stay home. If you step foot on that field, it's only for one reason, and that's to win. There are 2 people stepping into the ring and only 1 walking out. Boy, don't let your alligator mouth overload your parakeet butt. A pit bull mentality is what you have, son. When you lock your jaws onto something, you don't let go until you take the limb or they kill you. These are just a glimpse of what my pops would say to me all over the place. But I didn't value him at the time because it was my pop. It was my dad. He was saying these things. And then after, he went on to heaven, then I started to see that, man, this constant, one of the things that he told me, he said, the human mind only learns one of 2 ways, son. I said, what's that, Pop? He said, instant shock, repetitious learning. Instant shock, repetitious learning. And what I learned after he passed and realized was that he would sometimes shock me with the things that he would say, but then he would follow it up with a repetition and a consistency that would lay a foundation for every other thing in my life. And these wisdom-based principles would pay unbelievable dividends, but a lot of times I wasn't listening. So in Proverbs 3, it reminds us to honor the past, have hope in the future, and walk in the present. Wisdom will guide you through any and all circumstances, and that's what my pops was giving me, even though it was wrapped up in something that I couldn't understand at the time. So I'm excited to share Proverbs 3 with you and share a little bit with my pops because it always makes me smile. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got 2 shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
I think that I have the coolest job in the world, and I can't even think of it as a job because it's something that I absolutely love to do, spending time here and here on the Vibe. And this is another episode of Inchstones, and getting to talk about my pop. Like you see right back there behind me on my right, it might be your left. I don't know if it's switched around, but if you're watching on Spotify, thank you. You're watching on YouTube, thank you. You're listening on Apple or Pandora or Stitcher or any of those things, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. You guys are incredible, and I appreciate you guys, like Sly and the Family Stone said, thank you for letting me be myself again, right? But getting to spend time and talk about my pop, like right behind me is the jacket that he wore in the Air Force 14 years. He was with NASA also. And there's a little hat that Greg Reed gave me, and it says Pops. And it's just a little memorial to him. And he always brings a smile to my face. And some of the things that he would say, if you ever spent time with him, like you probably heard one of those sayings. You probably heard one of those things, and he would constantly just be like, boy, what are you talking about? And he would talk in that kind of way. But you would never leave his presence ever without being more filled up. You wouldn't leave his presence without feeling encouraged. You would never leave his presence without being better at what you do. And he didn't even have to do what you did. He would not know how to play basketball. I could whoop him, but he could show me how to play basketball. It was nuts. It was crazy. And so the sad thing, though, for me is so many things that he was giving me that a lot of times I resisted because it was my pops and I heard it over and over again. Those are the things that are carrying me through the rest of my life. And what I want you to realize is there's people in your life, there's wisdom in your life, there's things that are in your life right now that sometimes you overlook because we're looking for a bigger, larger, shinier kind of, either result or something in our lives. And so today, just take that time. If you do have both your parents with you, call them today and tell them you love them. It doesn't matter what has gone on. It doesn't matter all the circumstances. Call them and tell them you love them because you still have them. And I tell you, when you don't have them and they're not around and you can't call them physically, I can call on them spiritually. And I know they're always in my heart and they're always with me, but do that today. If you have a brother, a sister, a cousin, whatever it is, call them today. Tell them how much you love them, how much you value them. It can make a huge difference in their life. And a lot of times it can free somebody else up, and so make sure that you speak as much life into people as humanly possible. So, as I was reading in Proverbs 3, it was talking about these principles that a lot of times we overlook. And in verse 1 and 2, honor, value, and protect what has been gifted to you. And I don't say this from a preaching standpoint as far as like, oh, you should do it because I do it. No, I didn't do this stuff. There was days where I didn't call my mom. There was times where I didn't call my dad. There was mornings that I called him and not nights. There was afternoons that I didn't call him. But I tell you, if I could have one more day, like I would probably call him every minute of that day just to say, man, I love you, dude. Thank you so much for everything. Now, I still get a chance to be able to spend time with him, and I hear his voice all the time in my head, man. Boy, you better straighten up. You better, don't let your parakeet mouth overload your parakeet butt, or alligator mouth. He was... but you look at the wisdom in that. Don't let your alligator mouth overload your parakeet butt. Don't talk so much that you can't back it up, right? And all these principles were laid. And as I really dove into Proverbs, what I realized is that my pops was teaching me, my mom was teaching me from an evergreen source that they were getting, which was the word and having a relationship with God. And this was the thing that would frustrate me all the time with my parents was, I would ask them a question and then they would say to me, I don't know, but I know someone who does. And they would direct my eyes to God because they knew at some point, and for more life, they knew that I would spend more life without them than with them. But if I was constantly just looking to them, they were giving me the answers as opposed to me having an evergreen source to be able to go to. They knew that I was going to get into some trouble. And it doesn't mean that I don't still get into trouble, but they gave me a guide for that, and I'm so thankful. So honor, value, and protect what has been gifted to you. And what's been gifted to you is every single thing in your life. Like some people are like, no, I did this because of me. I listened to Pastor Miles McPherson. He was my pastor for years. And he said, even if you don't believe in God, go home tonight, stand in your room and say, all my money and all my stuff is mine and you can't take it and there's nothing you can do about it, God. And then just sit there. And he's like, everyone in the room just went silent when he said it. And I went silent and I was like, I ain't doing that. Even if I didn't believe in God, I ain't doing that. But realize that everything that you have is a gift. And it was gifted to you, so that way you can't puff your chest up and say, oh, I did this. No, it was gifted to you. The opportunity was gifted to you. The strength was given to you. The circumstances gifted to you. And when you do that, then you walk in a completely different light, and you have the tendency to lift people up as opposed to tell them how great you are. So in verse 3 and 4 is love always wins. And this was a thing that my mom was big on, right? Is just love always wins. If you listen to Bob Marley, listen to Ziggy Marley, we named our dog Ziggy after Ziggy Marley, and it didn't make the dog peaceful though. I promise you. He wants to eat everything, but when you listen to Ziggy and you listen to Bob, it's a common theme. It's just the love will always win. And you can overpower things with, just falling in love with that situation. Imagine joy. It's just the art of falling in love with your current circumstance and allowing magic to happen, right? In verse 5 and 6, you can tell a tree by its fruit. And watch this. This was my favorite verse from my pops, and he would tell me this all the time. And every third of the month, I always think of my pops, because in Proverbs 3, verse 5 and 6, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not to your own understanding, submit to him in all your ways, and he will make your path straight, right? So, but just extract the action words: trust, lean, submit, straight, right? And straight isn't a verb, I understand, for the fact checkers there. But when we want our path to be straight, we have to ask ourselves, have we submitted? If we haven't submitted, we have to ask ourselves, have we leaned? And if we don't lean, it just means we don't trust. So when you trust, you'll lean. When you lean, you'll submit. When you submit, your path will be straight. And my pops would always constantly tell me that over and over again. I would think, yeah, whatever, Pop. I'm on my way out. It's Friday. I'm trying to hang out, trying to go to the party, trying to do whatever. How's this going to apply to my basketball game tonight? Well, what he was saying is trust in the Lord with all of your heart, not a little bit of it, not 99%, but all of it. Lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. And I tell you, in any area that you're in, I was just talking with Ethan Evans, the vice president of Amazon, yesterday. And it was amazing because he reached back out to me this morning on LinkedIn and said, hey, I would like to sit down, do an episode and talk about how Proverbs applies to leadership. And I was like, yeah, let's go, baby, because 3,000 years ago, we got a blueprint for all leadership, all business, all relationship, all marketing, all PR. But it was written in it was written in text that is right in plain sight. In every hotel that you ever stay in, it's sitting in the drawer, but a lot of times we don't look at it because it ain't shiny and happy, right? Well, it's happy, but it ain't shiny. It isn't the newest, hottest thing. It's not the newest technology, right? And so in verse 7 and 8, there's always someone smarter than you. And this was what my pops would tell me. He said, act dumb, son. If you want to bring out the best and the worst in people, just act dumb. Ask a bunch of questions. And you'll see the character of the people, right? And I always thought, no, Pop, I want to be the smartest. I want to be the one. And he was like, no, there's always going to be someone smarter. There's always going to be that. And seek them out. Be curious about what they know. I got a chance to be able to spend time with the vice president of Amazon. He retired 4 years ago. He invented Amazon Video. He took the company from 10,000 employees to over 1 million. Don't you think that asking some questions of him and the leadership that that he's done, don't you think it would be good to stay curious about that? Heck yeah. Then I don't have to be good at it because I have great friends. When you have great friends, you just get to be yourself. So in verse 9 and 10 is honored wealth will increase. Honored wealth will increase. And it's not just the financial part, but it's any type of wealth. When you honor it, it will increase. In verse 11 and 12, preparation and opportunity meeting equals success. And this was the thing that my pops would say all the time. He would say, preparation, preparation, preparation. It's the time that you spend in the gym where no one's watching that gets you ready for stepping in the ring. And he always did, connection points with boxing, things like that. And the boxing, the rounds are short. It's 3 minutes. But he would say that you got to prepare, son. You got to prepare for weeks and weeks and weeks for that 3 minutes. That way, when you go in, the preparation was so much harder than what you'll experience in the ring. So, I killed some lions, I killed some bears, so this Philistine standing in front of me has no chance, right? And so my pops told me this story. I asked him, did he fight a lot as a kid? And he said, I mean, I don't know if I'd call it fighting. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, because, as a kid, I was living in Ophir. It was a mining town. And we didn't have much. And, we had 8 kids in the family and, we had to chop wood. So while some of the kids were watching TV or playing with their friends, I was chopping wood. So by the time it came to us getting into altercation, I had chopped down a bunch of trees. So my strength was different than them maybe lifting once or twice a week and watching a bunch of TV. So he said, son, the fights didn't last very long. And I would laugh because, here was this calm, peaceful, sage dude, but he would tell me, like, if you prepare, it doesn't take as much energy to be precise. And so it was incredible just to hear. I always love to hear his stories. In verse 13 through 24 of Proverbs 3, you can only focus on one thing at a time. When you focus on wisdom, everything else comes into focus. Right? I was talking in our men's group the other day, and one of the guys was like, I need to focus on my finances. I need to focus on, making my relationship better. I need to focus at home. I need to focus on my work. I need to focus on all these things. And what God put on my heart is, no, man, you just need to focus on him. You just need to focus on God, because if you focus on God and spend time with him, that means you respect him, and he'll give you wisdom, because that's the beginning of wisdom. And if you get wisdom, it'll help everything else to come into focus. But if you focus on everything else, wisdom won't come into focus. And so verse 13 through 24 was just, ripe with wisdom. And I would invite you to, explore it, look into it. Proverbs 3. And again, when we read these Proverbs, it's not from a religious standpoint. It's not from a ritual standpoint. It's just from a relationship standpoint, and being able to see that, guys, wisdom is evergreen, and it's going to constantly evolve based off the circumstances that you have. Although the principles will stay exactly the same, and it will be grounded and rooted in that foundation. In verse 25 and 26, peace is overwhelming when wisdom is present. Pretty simple. Verse 27 through 34, focus on the good, do the right thing, be okay with the outcome. Imagine if that was your pattern. Number 1, focus on the good. Focus on the good in every single thing. Do the right thing, is my buddy Gary Spellman. He said, I'm going to write a book. I said, what's the book? He said, it's going to have 1 page. It's going to say, do the right thing, the end. He said it'll be the best personal development book in the whole entire world. Imagine if your pattern was to focus on the good, do the right thing, and just be okay with the outcome. The outcome isn't always going to turn out exactly the way that you want it to, although when you focus on the good, you do the right thing. At some point, you're laying a foundation for great things to be able to happen. But it's not going to happen every single time. But we could put off future or immediate gratifications for future glories. In verse 35 is just to encourage you. Your story ends well. Your story ends well. God already knows. He knows where you're at. He's working on your behalf. Your story ends well. And if we knew that our story ended well, it would take a little stress off us. But I just want to encourage you. It ends well. It does. It ends well. And everything turns out okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end, right? And that's what my buddy John Paul said. And it's reiterated here in verse 35 of Proverbs 3. I told you earlier some of the sayings that my pops would say, and one of them was that there was 2 ways to learn: instant shock, repetitious learning, instant shock, repetitious learning, instant shock, repetitious learning. Think about it on social media, right? Think about that. Think about the pattern that people use. Instant shock, they want to hit you within the first 10 seconds of being able to get a hook. I've made friends with Adley, who has, 1 billion organic views a month. She uses the same pattern. Instant shock, and then she just repeats the process over and over again. But where did that process come from? It came from 3,000-year-old wisdom that's been sitting on the shelf a lot of times in our house, and we're not reading it. It's the shock. It's a shock today to think that think of the simplicity of wisdom that can protect you. Although the more that you listen, hear, and apply, the easier it will be to accept this truth. I want to thank you, Pop. I want to thank you for your 68 years on this earth, bringing so much light to so many people. and bringing so much joy into my heart, and getting a chance to be able to spend time with you, talk about you, repeat your sayings, Pop. I love you so much. I love you more than you could ever imagine. I miss you every single day. If you're not going to the Vibe Room, it's tomorrow. If you haven't got your tickets, you can't go because it's sold out. It's a live version of the podcast. It's going to be amazing. It's in Salt Lake City at the Edison House. If you don't have the book, get the book, The Vibe. Also, get it for your company. And when you get it for your company, and invite me in, and we'll do a keynote for you, and we'll wrap it around how your leadership, your culture, your systems, none of them matter anyway if people don't feel great about them. And how can we get people to feel great about them? We could take the heart set, the mindset, and the skill set, put it in line, create an irresistible vibe, and then the product falls away, the price falls away, the offering falls away, and it just become about people wanting to be a part of what it is that you're doing. So I want to thank you for being here with me on Inchstones. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and you share it with all your friends. And if you're not subscribed on Spotify or YouTube or on Apple or on Pandora, go ahead and do it. You know you want to. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
On my mind, I got two shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose.